Okay, I just finished filming a video, and this is going to be tacked on the beginning of it because I want you to understand I have not edited it yet. Unedited version of this video was 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 14 seconds long. Way longer than I expected it to be. But this is a very, very personal topic, a very, very, very important topic. In a way, I didn't even exactly understand what it was that I was trying to say because I have never been able to put it into words before. I have never really tried to put into words before, and I have never been able to put it into words even when I tried. But of all videos I have ever filmed in my life, this is probably one of the most important ones that I want to be able to say. So even though it's really long, I am asking you to please consider watching the entire thing to really hear and think about what it is that I'm saying within this video. But also be careful, I say within the video, but I'll say it here too, be careful of triggers. I myself broke down crying like 3-4 times. I was crying through a lot of this video. I had my face covered through a lot of it, and there's a good possibility I'll actually have to put some kind of picture over top of it so you can't see me at all, because even while covering my face, I don't know how good of a job I did covering my face. So please consider watching the entire thing, even though it's long. And if you do, thank you very much, and I hope that you hear and think about what I'm saying. Here we go. Okay, look at me deleting things because there's probably a lot of good stuff in there, but I was getting annoyed, so just like delete it and start over again. I have a very, very important topic that I want to talk about. It's a very dangerous topic for me to talk about because if I get right into it and get really real with it the way I'd like to do, there's a very high probability that I'm going to break down crying while doing it. Because this is a very serious topic, but it's a very important topic. And at least the way I want to present it, maybe I'm such a sheltered person and I'm not so good at finding things. There's too much stuff on the internet. Maybe it does exist out there somewhere and I just haven't come across it. This very highly important topic, which can be very triggering, so be careful. And I know it can be triggering because it's very triggering to me. Like I just said, there's a very good possibility that I will break down crying while talking about it. And that is the whole topic of death. The whole topic of losing someone. We're specifically talking about human beings right now. The specific topic of specifically losing human beings that you love to death. And specifically, how it's handled in the entertainment world. The whole topic of loss, and when you lose someone that you love, is a very complicated topic. Because every individual, not only is every human being on the planet completely different, even though they're all similar, because there's only so many ways you can handle death. The thing is, every human being on Earth is very different. And so every human being handles death very differently. That's already a given fact. And I have to say right off the bat that it's all valid. How you handle someone's death in your life is completely valid, even if it's different than anybody and everybody else, because every human being is different. And here's the thing, aside from every human being being different, each individual, and I know this from my own life experience, this is a fact, each individual also handles every death differently. I don't know if I've ever said who and how many and etc. before. I can't remember which ones I've brought up before. And I don't want to go into a whole personal spree on exactly who I've lost and all the rest of this stuff because, like, it involves other people as well because, like, they're all family members and stuff, right? I've lost several different types of family members. The most important one being my older brother. My older brother died in a vehicle accident when he was 25 years old, which means I was 23 years old. Just a couple weeks after my birthday. And it was a very sudden death, completely out of the blue, completely like shocked the whole family because nobody was expecting this in any way, shape, or form to happen. And it changed absolutely everything, and I did not personally understand how much it changed or in what ways it changed myself until like close to 10 years later. And I didn't realize how much there is about his death that is still affecting me, because I have this document that's called the Tasks of Mourning. Everybody's heard of the cycle of grief. I'm sure everybody's heard of it, especially people who have actually handled grief have definitely heard of the cycle of grief and all the different ways that you respond to it. The denial, the anger, all of those ones. There's also this thing that someone sent me, a document called the Tasks of Mourning. And there's like these 4 tasks in there. And the way it's presented, these are the things that you have to process and properly work through before you're going to be able to fully accept and move on through this loss. And as I'm reading that, this is the 13th year. Math in my head does not happen fast. And yet I have not processed and completed any of those tasks. So that might give you an idea of exactly how messed up I still am. This is fun. And then add other losses since then. So each person, on top of every single person being different how they handle things, each person within their own lives also is completely different when it comes to each death and how they handle it. Every death that I've experienced in my life was very different. It hit me in a completely different way. I handled it in a completely different way, like responded to it in a completely different way because of the relationship I had with the person that I lost and because of everything else that was going on in my life. And that is also very valid. It is also something that probably most people don't realize is a thing, unless you are someone that has had multiple losses in your life. And even then, it's possible that you don't realize or fully understand that that is real and that it is valid and that it is true, that every single one of those losses you handled very differently. It hit you in a very different way. So this is part of the reason why I want to talk about this, is because it's such a big topic, especially for me, and because it's such a big topic and something that I'm still struggling with. When I see it on TV, it's especially when it's on TV, when it's in books too, but it's especially when it's on TV, because there's something completely different about reading it in a book and you have to, with the words in your own head, create your own visuals and or auditory of what's going on. Whereas when it's on the screen, you don't have a say in it. It's there in your face. You can see it, you can hear it, and even though you can't smell it or taste it or anything like that, you feel it as a result. It's very quick, and it happens without even your consent in a lot of cases, because it just hits you, and it's there. And you just have to learn how to deal with it after it's already hit you. If you're feeling those emotions, you need to figure out a way to actually deal with them. But because of who else it involves, there's correct people to talk to and there's incorrect people to talk to, because it's not fair to anybody, yourself or those other people, to damage that relationship by dumping things on someone that your emotions and feelings are valid, but it's not all necessarily true, so you have to be careful about how you go about it. It's a lot harder to analyze deaths from real life. Whereas it's very easy to analyze it when it's on screen, because for one thing, you usually know more about it because of the nature of storytelling. You usually know more about it. You usually get to see more. You usually get to understand more, etc., etc. It's a story. It's much easier to analyze. At the moment that I am filming this, yesterday I filmed a whole bunch of a reaction to a drama called l.o.r.d. Critical World. And it's kind of a spoiler that there are several people who die in that drama. Massive spoiler is exactly who dies and how they die. Because I'm already filming that reaction anyway, and I'm in the middle of editing and all the rest of this stuff, so this video might go up before it. But the last thing that I wanted to do with the reaction to that was to go through each death in that drama, because each death within the drama was handled very differently, and therefore my reactions to each death were very different. And the problem is, last night I was watching a show called City of Chaos, and I don't know overall whether I'm going to end up liking that drama as a whole or not, because I literally only watched 9 episodes out of 24 episodes, so I have no idea. I am not recommending it yet because I have no idea what my final thoughts on that drama are going to be. I don't know whether it's going to be really good or whether it's going to go completely downhill from here on, or what's going to happen with that one, because I'm not even halfway through it yet. But it hit me with a whammy last night that I was like not expecting. Not done the way it was done. And that is specifically the death of a character. Spoilers from the song itself. I saw something within the song that I'm like, great. I've seen too many things. Just given the nature of the show and all the rest of that stuff, I'm like, I bet you anything they're gonna end up killing this character. And I was right. I just was not expecting them to do it that soon. I feel very much like his wife at the moment. I was worried about him because of the job that he had. I just never expected it to happen this soon. And I'm like, you and me both, girl. You and me both. Because of the stupid song, seriously, the 2 girl main characters, they're only shown once each, or twice each, within that song. And they're still alive. And they're probably going to live for most of, if not the entire drama, but they're only in the song twice. And yet this character, who, spoilers, dies in episode, I think it's 8. Episode 8! And he's flipping in the song 6 times. Like, you sneaky little... And the problem is, this that happened last night... Which, yes, I was literally, my throat hurt so bad, and I had literal tears rolling down my face, and I can feel them there on the surface. I told you there's a good chance I'd break down crying if I start talking about this. In Critical World, there was one character, when he died, I cried. The rest of them, I didn't cry. And there's reasons for that. But this character last night, there are people who watch TV, and when they watch it, they understand that it's just TV, it's just on the screen. They don't cry when stuff like this happens. People have varying degrees of reactions to it. Some people don't cry at all, they don't even feel sad at all, it just doesn't hit them emotionally at all. Then there are people who it does make them upset, and they might feel like crying, they might choke up sometimes, but they don't actually cry. And that's actually my younger sister. She and I have talked about this before. I don't remember if there actually was once or twice where she did literally cry, or whether it's just always been, there's only been a handful of times where she almost cried. And that's close enough with her because she doesn't cry over TV. And then you have people like me, who very quickly and very easily start crying over things that are happening on the screen. And I have been teased for this before. People have made fun of me before. Not in a really mean way, because it comes from friends, and my friends aren't that bad. If they were, I'd be like, you're not a friend. Go away. But I have been teased for it before. And I'm like, you don't understand what's actually happening here. It's not just TV. And this is something that I've been trying to get across to people for like a while, but I never knew exactly how to put it into words. And when this hit me last night, in City of Chaos, when this character died, because I've been thinking about it and planning on doing this thing for Critical World, I've been trying to figure out how to put it into words. And last night, I actually started to figure out some of the words for why this is a fact. Why it's not fair to tease people for crying when it happens on TV. And I hope I can put this into words so that you understand, because either you're one of those people that teases people and you need to stop it, or you're one of the people like me who's trying to find the words, and maybe this will help you. Maybe it will make sense to you. There's a couple of factors that I figured out have into this. This show, City of Chaos, the reason that I started watching it, aside from the fact that the story itself sounded interesting, the reason I found it and decided to watch it was because of this character that died. Xiao Wu is the character's name. The actor that played Xiao Wu, I'll put his name up here because I don't remember what it is at the moment. Again. He's the actor who played the characters Tan and Mir in the Chinese drama that was filmed in 2022 called Detective. If you haven't seen my whole reaction walkthrough to that, you feel free to go and watch that, or skip through it or something. But the thing is, I've never seen that guy play in anything else. So I was curious. But this is the thing. I had seen him in something. So I don't know anything about the actor himself. I don't know anything about him. Aside from the fact that I don't think he's like an evil person, because like he's an actor that people like and he's been in many things. So I highly doubt he's done anything really horrible in his life, we'll put it this way. And on top of that, because I've already seen him as Tan and Mir, I already had an emotional connection. And yes, it's very possible to get emotionally connected to characters. This is the thing with visuals. Some people just don't get connected this way to characters, so maybe they will just never understand. The type of person that I am, in real life, or on screen, or in pictures, whether it's in the entertainment, like make-believe story, or whether it's the real people in a talk show or something like that, I'm a person analyzer. I am the type of person, I pick up cues and I understand things about people through the movements they're making, through the tones of their voice, through the just looking into their eyes, all kinds of things like this. I pick up the energy of people even when it's just on screen. This is who I am and who I've always been. I am sensitive towards things like that. It's a real thing. And that's why I say it's even on screen and it's even within stories. I get emotionally attached very easily, and I know this is a thing. And when I started City of Chaos, I knew this was going to be a thing because I knew this actor, because of the connection with Tan and Mir, and it doesn't help that Zhao. That's another story. And it doesn't help that Xiao Wu's hairstyle is exactly the same as Tan and Mir's. So he literally looked the same. So I knew that all of these things were a factor. So I'm like, behave. Behave yourself. Do not get so emotionally attached to this character purely because you know the actor and you're thinking of the other characters that he played. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do it. Especially, like I say, because I watched the name, so I had this warning that he was probably going to die. Don't do it. You will cry. Don't do it. Just don't even get attached to the character, never mind being stupid and crying because of these previous attachments. And this is where it's kind of all leading to, is the problem of having a previous attachment to him. I did already have a previous attachment to this face, to this person. Even if I don't know the real actor, I know Tan and Mir. And then, Xiao Wu himself, Xiao Wu himself has killed a lot of people. He is a member of a gang. He is a young member of a gang, but he is a member of a gang and he knows what he's doing. He has killed a lot of people. He's not innocent. It seems like everybody that he's killed were people within gangs, so probably at least the vast majority of the people that he's killed were also killers. Although I'm not sure if they all were, because, I mean, the one case that you see, he's supervising the new guy when the new guy is supposed to kill someone, and that person that the new guy was supposed to kill, it sounds like, didn't deserve to die because he wasn't a killer or something. Because the guy that was supposed to kill him said this guy doesn't deserve to die. And if he said he doesn't deserve to die, then I'm going to guess he didn't deserve to die. And Xiao Wu was there watching it and was going along with it and was fine with it. But at another point, he did say something about protecting innocence and not getting innocence mixed up in dying and all the rest of this stuff. So, his character is presented, I'm like, okay, he's a killer and I know he's gonna die. Don't get attached to him. I won't cry when he dies. I won't do it. But then they threw this whammy at me that I wasn't expecting. Sort of, actually. I was expecting it because I've seen too many dramas and I just knew they were gonna do this to me. Because of the type of character he is, where you can tell that he's still young. He is the right-hand man to one of the top guys in this gang. And the relationship that he has with this guy is like they're brothers. And I didn't know this until after he'd already died. And Mr. Yu, I'll call him that even though it sounds weird, Mr. Yu, but anyway, where was I? Mr. Yu was thinking about it afterward, and it's only then when I saw the clip of, okay, like I've been wondering exactly how long these two knew each other and why exactly they were so close. It looks like Mr. Yu met Xiao Wu when he was really little. And Xiao Wu, when he was really little, in this flashback, asked Mr. Yu, please take me with you. I have no family, I'm an orphan, I have like nothing. Nowhere else to go or anything like that. Please take me with you and let me come be with you. And Mr. Yu said, okay. So he literally, from the time that Xiao Wu was young, he grew up with Mr. Yu. And it was like, you know, it's not one of those gangs where everything is pure business and nobody's close and all the rest of that. It's one of those types of gangs where you're family if you're part of the gang. And like these two were really close. It was like they were literally brothers. Xiao Wu was literally Mr. Wu's younger brother. That's the kind of relationship they had. And Xiao Wu, I don't know exactly how old he's supposed to be, but I know he's supposed to be still probably early 20s, because he's supposed to be about the same age as another character. They're the young guys. So he's supposed to be pretty young, and you can kind of tell in the way he acts. He's young. I don't know how old the actor is. I'll find it and put the age. So that's the whole setup with him. He's presented as still very young, and you get to understand after he dies that this is the lifestyle that he has been living since he was a little kid. So he knows perfectly well that he's killing these people, and he knows as an adult that this is wrong, and it's actually not okay to be killing people, but at the same time he's fine with it for whatever reasonings inside of his own brain, whether it's just they deserve it anyway, or whether it's just, oh well, this is how it goes, somebody's gonna do it, so it might as well be me. Like, whatever his reasoning is, he's decided to continue doing it, so that is his fault. It's not okay. Whatever it is that sets someone onto a track of being wrong, it helps in understanding, but it doesn't excuse what they're doing. If what they're doing is wrong, it's wrong no matter what led them there. I have to make that point. So even though I knew he was gonna die, because the people were jerks in this show, the way he died, for the love of sanity, why did you do this to me? It wasn't just like, I mean, I'm like, okay, it's probably gonna be one of those things where he's in the middle of a fight and there's people getting beaten down and possibly dying all around him, and he's just one of them that ends up dying this way. This is how I figured they'd kill him. Or at least this is how I hoped they would kill him. Because then I wouldn't have to necessarily cry. Because, you know, there's enough other distractions and there's enough whatever else, or I could just, like, write it off as something else, and I'm still going to film this, how the deaths were handled in Critical World, so maybe if you go watch that afterwards, you'll understand more. That whole thing can be handled in there, because I'm going to explain more the handling of that with those different deaths. But the way they chose to do it with Xiao Wu, okay, it started out as a situation that looks kind of dumb, because he's supposed to be a smart guy. He's been in this gang for a long time, he's good at his job, he's one of the other characters, like the boss of the gang, said that he's a very smart person, like the boss of the gang, not his boss is like right-hand man to the boss. The boss, like, watched him grow up too, and like he said, he's a smart guy, he'll get out of this and whatever's happening, and because they weren't sure at that point what was going on, they just knew he wasn't contacting them. But he's presented as a smart guy, and this whole situation that was happening, I'm like, you're being kind of dumb, you're escalating this a lot higher than you need to. I can so tell that this is not gonna, I was already starting to have doubts, because, so he kind of himself escalated this situation, and he ended up in a room with a gun pointed to the head of a character. How do I keep these characters straight? A, B, C. He had his gun pointed to the head of A in order to make B do what he was supposed to have already done, but it turns out he didn't do. So Zhao Wu is like, do the job that you were supposed to do, and I will let this girl go. C is... calling him C sounds so weird. I'm going to call him Bai because his last name is Bai. Bai grew up with Mr. Yu. He's very close relationship with Mr. Yu. His whole relationship with the gang is complicated, so I won't go there. But he knows Zhao Wu. Personally, he knows Zhao Wu. And as far as I can understand, overall, I think he considers him a good kid overall, even though I'm sure he knows that he's killed people too. So, but it's like complicated. So in the middle of all of this confusion and stuff, Bai and character B are trying to make him stop, like to let go of A and all the rest of this, and I'm like, this is going bad places. Bai stabs Zhao Wu. And the whole reason why he did is complicated, but he ends up stabbing Zhao Wu. It was more of a reaction than it was anything, and like I say, it's complicated. It was more of a reaction to probably PTSD that made him do this. But he's like... I guess a lot more fly off the handle temper than I realized that his character was going to be. I didn't think he was quite that bad. And then all of a sudden lately he's done a few things that I'm like, I didn't realize he was that bad, but... So he ends up stabbing him here. And I'm like, oh please, oh please. And I knew that this was probably going to go bad places, but there was still hope. There was still hope. Because for one thing, I hadn't seen some of the scenes yet from the names. They hadn't happened yet, so I'm like, he can still survive. And even the doctor that was currently in the room, she's the one that had the gun pointed to her head, she says that there's a good chance that he could live or die. But the problem is, not only did he stab him, after he stabs him, he realizes that Zhao Wu's gun didn't have any bullets in it. And this is where Zhao Wu mentions giving innocents the chance to survive and giving yourself a chance and all this stuff. And I guess the point was, like, his own gun couldn't hurt the innocents because there was no bullets in it. So this whole charade that he's pulling off, and Bai stabs him. You can't blame Bai because he didn't know the gun was empty until after he already did it. So I'm not mad at Bai. I'm mad at the show because the show did this to me. How dare you? Because he can still live. But as the situation is progressing, pretty much everybody else leaves, and character B is the only one still there with Zhao Wu, and then a whole bunch of bad guys show up. I'm like, oh crap. So B is like, I'm gonna go handle the bad guys, and he puts a blanket over Zhao Wu so you can't see Zhao Wu, and like tells him to just stay there and wait. And you know an ambulance is on the way, but for the love of sanity, did it ever take forever to come? So B goes out there and he's fighting with the bad guys, and then the police show up, and you think everything is okay. I'm literally watching them. This is another scenario that really gets to me, when people are helpless. Zhao Wu is unconscious as they're putting him on the stretcher. He's unconscious. He's completely defenseless. And they put him on the stretcher, and they start to carry him out, and I'm like, yes, he's safe. He's gonna go to the hospital. He's gonna live. And then more bad guys show up. The police now lose control of the situation. I'm like, okay, but it's okay because the ambulance guys already took Zhao Wu out. And then I realized they didn't get very far with him. The new bad guys are here. They did not get Zhao Wu out of there. They put him down. And the bad guys that just show up, they're the head of the rival gang, of the gang that Zhao Wu is in. They know exactly who Zhao Wu is. They take him. And I'm like, he's dead. He's dead. Completely vulnerable and helpless on the stretcher, and he's kidnapped off to the bad guy's gang. He's dead. So then, that whole scene gets wrapped up, and you go over to the bad guy's place, and yeah, they've got him, and he's already got a stab wound in his gut, but of course they beat him up even more because the next time you see him, he's got cuts all over his face. So he's got a gun pointed at his face, and I'm like, yep, there's the scene, the last one from the song. He's dead. I'm like, all prepared. I'm like, this is already bad enough. And then, of course, the head bad guy calls Mr. Yu. He calls him and taunts him and then shows him as they shoot Zhao Wu. So you get to see Mr. Yu's reaction as he watches his little brother die. And now I'm starting to cry because this is where I started to react in the show as well. Here's the thing. The actor that played Xiaowu is an innocent person. The actor who played Xiaowu did not deserve to die. Xiaowu himself killed people. I am someone that believes in the death penalty when someone is a murderer. But I do also believe in mercy happening. And I'm not entirely clear on exactly what kind of people Xiaowu has actually killed. Within the show, you see him kill a couple of people. You even see him pretty much torturing people because of the way these people, in the one scene, they beat them up, put them in a drum, and while they were still alive, they threw them overboard into the water. So they drowned to death within this drum. So that's the kind of violent deaths that he, Xiaowu, was involved in doing. So it's not like the character was innocent. You understand where he's coming from, and you understand the type of people that he's involved in killing. And then there's the whole complication, and this is the part that I didn't fully really put my finger on or understand until last night when I was watching this. And it's the whole fact of, how does death impact human beings? When you lose someone you love, you are never the same person after that loss. It forever changes the way you see the world and the way that you see the people around you. What people don't seem to understand sometimes is, because this is a real thing, it doesn't matter whether it's on TV or not. Death is real. So for me to understand that death is real and to have the impact, especially when it's like, this person, it doesn't matter whether it's fake or not. I am watching someone die. It doesn't matter if it's fake. This person, the more real it is and the more well it's portrayed, this person is dying. And that actor does not deserve death. That actor does not deserve that kind of death. So I know in my head that this is a character and this is a story. And that character even did deserve death because he himself is a killer. So he kind of did deserve death. Whether he deserved that death or not, did he deserve to get beat up that badly? Did he deserve to get kidnapped when he was completely helpless and in pain? He got shot, was how he died. He got shot, and it was one shot. It wasn't like it was a torturous death where he was put in a drum and tossed overboard, so he had the mental torment of drowning to death within a confined space. It was a quick and easy shot death for the end of it, but still. This is a very real thing, that is very real, that I am witnessing a death. When it's a visual thing, that it's right in front of your face, it doesn't matter whether it's a story. I am literally witnessing someone get killed. And that should have an impact on you. You need to understand how real that is, and it should have an impact on you. And this is one of the reasons why I say that entertainment is very tricky and very, I lost the word when I said tricky. I lost the other word I was trying to say. But this is why a lot of TV these days has desensitized people to a lot of things that they should not be desensitized to. No, everybody shouldn't be brought to the point of breaking down over stuff. I mean, stories are used for many different things. Stories are actually used to teach people, like all through history. People learn through stories. Think about it. In the Bible, Jesus used stories to teach people. Parables, those are stories. People learn through stories. They're also used as like escape, just to escape reality, to just have some fun. So there's many different reasons for stories. TV has become so, I have no idea what my face looks like right now. I stopped crying. TV has become so sensationalized, so over the top, ever since, especially, I'm still convinced, and I'll say it again, ever since it's become so high definition, it's become more and more and more and more sensationalized, where more and more of the world seems to be becoming ADHD, where this is one thing with ADHD people, it is hard to get us excited about things, it's hard to get us really like the adrenaline rush going, because our bodies are slower, physically, our bodies are slower to get that dopamine rush, I think it's dopamine, that we have a problem getting up there and getting going, so it takes more to get us going, and we also crash sooner, etc., than normal people. But even normal people are getting so desensitized because of what they're seeing on TV that it's taking more and more to get them hyped up, on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm also convinced that they only think it's supposed to take more, because that is one of the things about death. When I was watching Detective, there was 3 reactions. There was one really bad one, and there was 2 really good ones, reactions to deaths within that drama. One of them was the girl, Ching Ting, and her reaction to someone dying, and I hated her reaction. It was so dumb that I spent how long trying to explain what it was that made me so, I don't like it. And like I say, I'm going to go more into try to explain more about this when I do the critical world handling of death. Within Detective, there was twice, it was just so raw and real. There was the one guy near the beginning of the show that his brother got killed, and his acting there was just way too well done. And there was much closer to the end of the show where one of the characters is reacting to finding out the truth. He thought his father just recently died, and then he finds out there was this whole big long plot, and it was actually a long time ago that his father had died, and he hadn't even noticed. And he started crying, and it's just those, you don't have to sensationalize death. In fact, it makes me mad when TV sensationalizes death, and great, I just stopped crying, I'm gonna start crying again. What the crap? I think that's one of the things that makes me so mad about it, and one of the things that like really gets under my skin, and why I wanted to make this video even though I'm crying on it, so I'm like, this is really awkward, and it's gonna be a long video because this is important. I just saw what, 46 minutes, it's almost an hour long, for crying out loud. It makes me really mad when TV sensationalizes death, because you don't need to sensationalize it for it to have an impact. And in fact, when you sensationalize it so that it has an impact, it desensitizes people more and more, and they lose the meaning of what death is and what it does to people. And they start having this flippant attitude toward it that's just dangerous on so many levels for themselves and for the people around them. It is just so wrong to sensationalize death like that. And it makes me really mad, and it makes me really upset. And when they don't sensationalize it, when they do it like what they did with Xiao Wu in City of Chaos, the reaction Xiao Wu had as he was looking at the gun that's pointed at his face, as he's looking at the person that's holding the gun, when it showed his hand on the ground shaking, and he's trying to be strong because he knows he's about to die, and then he looks at the phone and he can see Mr. Yu on the other end, and this smile, and then even worse, as if that wasn't, that was done, they didn't sensationalize the reactions to it either. As if it isn't bad enough watching Bai's reaction because he feels the weight of all this incredible guilt because he thinks it's entirely his fault that Xiao Wu dies. It wasn't his fault. He didn't know everything else was going to happen. There was still a chance that Xiao Wu would have lived after Bai stabbed him. The problem was that, yeah, he did contribute to the death indirectly and not on purpose. He didn't actually mean to kill Xiao Wu, especially when he realized that Xiao Wu's gun didn't even have any bullets in it. He didn't want to kill him. He was just reacting in that moment, but the problem is, because Xiao Wu was already injured, it made it that much easier for him to get kidnapped. If he hadn't been unconscious, he might have gotten away. They probably, in fact, probably would have gotten away before the bad guys ever showed up. So Bai did contribute to Wu's death, and he felt that. So watching his reactions was hard enough. But the real problem, and where I really started crying, was Mr. Yu's reaction. Not only his gasp when the bullet actually hit Wu and killed him, that was, even that was just like, oh. The worst scene to watch was Mr. Wu sitting on the beach with the fire. And okay, usually, like, for one thing, I don't like the stupid montages when people die. That, to me, is sensationalizing it. I don't need that. If it's raw and real enough, you don't need the whole flashback thing. And I have to blow my nose again. I also had to run away and do something else, so I splashed some water on my face. So at the moment I'm not crying, but I'm going to start crying again, I'm sure, as I continue. Because I usually don't like when they do flashback scenes, but I did say once before, it is possible to do flashback scenes correctly. It just depends how they do it. Most of the time in shows they do it wrong, but sometimes they do it right. And this one was a kind of half and half, because they started with something that I had never seen before that added depth and understanding to Zhao Wu, and I'm like, thanks for adding that after he's already dead, make me cry even harder. And they also showed too much of scenes that I just saw within the show. Like I say, this is episode 9. He dies at the end of episode 8, and Mr. Yu's reaction to it is in episode 9. The main character of the show for the first several episodes, you see him and you see Mr. Yu, but you don't see any of the others, except Bai, because of what was happening. That's not the point. The point is, I didn't see Zhao Wu for very many episodes. If it was episode 8, there was maybe, I don't know, 5 episodes that he was actually really in. And then all of a sudden you're adding this depth to him now. And like this whole flashback scene, I didn't need the whole flashback scene because like, that wasn't that long ago that I saw that. I didn't need all of that to remind me of that. And then the other thing about when someone dies that I don't usually like it, when shows do it, but occasionally they can do it right, and this is a case of they did that way too right, was when the person that is in the process of mourning, like Mr. Yu is sitting there on the beach with the fire in front of him, and he's thinking about Zhao Wu, and then Zhao Wu comes along and sits down beside him, and they have a conversation. I usually don't like it when that happens, because it doesn't happen that way. Okay. I already said that for everybody when they're mourning, every death is different. And every person is different when they react to death. So maybe some people do imagine it this way. I never have. That's not the way I have ever experienced it. Not even remotely close. And yet, that is the number one way that TV shows, especially American ones, but obviously even Asian ones too, love to handle it. Where they like have the deceased come visually and have interactions with the person that's mourning for them. And usually I hate that. But there was something about the way they did it in this one. The spot on key that they got right, and that is exactly when I started crying. Here I go for a third time. Exactly when I started crying, and the part that they really hit the nail on the head for was how Mr. Yu pulled out his cigarette and he went to light it, and he's like, and this lighter appears beside him, and it's Zhao Wu that's holding the lighter, and he looks at Mr. Yu, and he's like, you left your lighter with me, remember? Yeah, that hit very close to home, because that's the type of thing that is true. Just all of a sudden, out of the blue, you forget, or you don't realize until it's happening what type of things this person you lost took care of for you, did for you. You don't realize what kind of role they played until suddenly they aren't there doing it anymore. That's the thing, you don't think about those things until suddenly you need your lighter, and where on earth is my lighter? Oh, look at that. It's with Zhao Wu. That's the very real kinds of things you don't need to sensationalize that. The simplest, most, unsensationalized, raw, real things. That's all you need, because that is what is real. And it's wrong to sensationalize it, because then people think that this is how it is. Someone has only ever experienced loss on TV, and then someone they care about loses someone. Then what's their reaction going to be? They're going to, like, the only experience they've ever had is on TV. And what's the chances of them saying something or doing something really stupid because they don't understand that it's not like that in real life? For lack of better words, like, it's the dumbest things that will remind you of someone that you lost. Even years later, never mind right when it happened. It's the dumbest little things that are going to remind you of someone. He starts crying because he doesn't have his lighter. Why? Because Zhao Wu's supposed to have it and Zhao Wu's not here. It doesn't take something big or sensational to make us think of someone that we've lost. It takes the tiniest little things, and they come out of the blue. People might look at someone and they think, what on earth are you breaking down for? This was no big deal. You're being silly right now. It's been 10 years. What on earth are you breaking down for? And I'm like, you don't get it. You really don't get it. If you think that I'm being silly for breaking down over the tiniest, dumbest little thing that made me think of my brother 10 years ago, if you think I'm being dumb right now, then you really, really don't get it. Either you've had no personal life experience, or you had a very different way of handling it, and for some reason you think everybody is supposed to handle it the same way you did, so you're going to, like, be hard on someone when they're not handling it your way, and don't do that. I have someone in my life that has done that before. She thinks everybody is supposed to handle loss the same way that she does, and I'm like, no, not always. That is not always the case. Not everybody handles it that way, and technically the way she handled it is not healthy. So even she shouldn't be handling it that way, because it's not healthy the way she does it. She tends to just shove it in a box and not deal with it. I'm like, that is not healthy. You need to deal with it. I tend to shove it in a box and not deal with it. Look what it's doing to me right now. I forget what I was saying because that was a slight sidetrack. It's the smallest little things that you just... It's the big things that you're ready for. The big things tend to be the things that you're ready for, and you see them coming, and you're okay because you can see them coming. It's the little things that you aren't expecting. Someone walks by you, and there's something about them that reminds you of the person you lost. Some little thing gets you excited, and you're like, oh man, I really want to tell... Never mind, they're not here. I can't tell them anymore. Even years later, it can still hit you that way. Like, it's the type, when I say the dumbest little things, it's like, I have experienced it for how many years, and I can't even give you proper examples right now. That's how dumb and out of the blue these tiny little things are that will hit you and make you break down crying. That's how it is when you lose someone. That's the reality of it. But TV has a really bad habit of sensationalizing it, and that tends to be the type of deaths that I react angrily toward on TV. I'm just rolling my eyes and this is just stupid. Either the death was some kind of dumb little thing that that doesn't even make sense how they die. Like, that could have been so easily avoided, and I didn't want to get into all exactly stuff like that. Watch for the How Deaths Are Handled video for that. My only point in making this one, and why I decided to make this one and talk specifically about Zhao Wu's death and how it happened and why it impacted me the way it did. If you sensationalize it and try to force me to feel a certain way, I'm going to be like, this show just lost 3 stars because that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Just putting it like it is. Technically, Zhao Wu's death should not have hit me that way. I did not know Zhao Wu that well. Technically, like I said, I only saw him for 4 episodes? I technically did not know him well enough to cry that hard when he died. I cried that hard because of the unfair way it happened, because of his vulnerability and inability to protect himself, because nobody around him was protecting him. Someone accidentally made him completely vulnerable, and then everybody that could have been protecting him and saved him, they all had their reasons they had to leave too. So he was literally 100% vulnerable. And then these bad guys, who technically they didn't have anything personally against him, they just wanted to hurt the person that loved him. So they used him, and they were just mad and throwing a fit. So they killed him after beating him up. So it was the way that he died and the reasons that he died, but they were all like those things all hit me because, oh my gosh, someone stop this. And then it was the whole way that the person that loved him reacted, and it wasn't over the top, stupidly done. It was very real and very, you're lighters with me, remember? And that's when I broke down crying, and that's when I because that's when it really hit me. Whatever you do when you write the story, just don't sensationalize it. Do not make people lose their ability to understand what it actually feels like to lose someone. Because you are harming them and you are harming yourself when you do that. If you managed to watch this entire video, and I hope you did, because that, in case you couldn't tell, that's a really, really important, very, very important point that I am trying to get across to you. So I hope you watched the whole thing, and I hope you heard that point, and I hope you think about it. Like, really think about it. Because when death is that raw and that real, it doesn't matter if it's in a story. If you saw it happen, you saw it happen. If you experienced it, you experienced it. If you've experienced it in real life with someone you actually love, it's a whole lot rawer and it's a whole lot realer. And it is bringing up a whole lot of emotions that if you haven't processed them, and even if you have processed them, it's going to hit you a whole lot harder. But even if you haven't experienced it in real life, if you cry over a character's death, you have a small understanding of what it really feels like. So, if you know someone that has lost someone, be nice to them. Be there for them. Listen to them. If they are going dangerous places, then you can stop them then. But the way people process things, everybody's different in the way they process things, and they need to be able to process it the way that they need to process it. You can't force an outcome on someone. They have to be able to get there themselves. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Just be there for them. Literally, don't say anything if you don't know what to say. Or if you think you know what to say, think about it like 500 times before you say it, because you might think you know what to say, but it's the wrong thing to say. So just think about the person you're dealing with. Every individual is different. It might be helpful to you, but it might not be helpful to them. Think about it before you say it. Thanks for watching this video. I'm a mess. I gotta blow my nose again, so I'm going to stop it here. And I'm gonna have so much fun editing this. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a comment. Be nice about it. Also be careful about it, because if it's something personal, this is a public platform and other people will be able to see your comment long after you leave it. So be careful what you say in the comments. I hope it didn't trigger you as badly as it triggered me. Bye. Where's the stop button?